Welcome back to the One More K podcast. We're on episode number 30. That is a very special episode for us. And for that reason, we also have a very special guest on the show. First and foremost, we have, of course, Ned Phillips here from Singapore.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you again.
And I'm delighted to say Moin Moin Hamburg and welcoming Christian Toetzke to the show. Hey, Christian.
Hey, hello guys. Thank you very much for inviting me to the 1K podcast is the name, right?
The One More K, exactly.
One more K. Okay, one more K.
You know this philosophy of in sports and business, just one more K, it will be fine. And so we thought that's a matching mantra for this podcast. Christian, I mean, it is an honor to have you on this podcast. We are quite delighted. And everyone who doesn't know Moin Moin, by the way, it's a North German saying to welcome someone. It's like a hey in North Germany. So I hope everyone is going to practice now Moin Moin in the world. It's really cool to do that. Christian, I'm going to give a quick introduction because, you know, it's really astonishing what you have achieved in your life so far. You've been the founder and CEO of Absolute Sports, which also launched the World Triathlon Series. You're the global CEO of Lagardère Sports. You've been the Chief Development Officer at the Ironman Group. And now you've been the founder and CEO of HYROX. Quite a CV. And I thought I'd kick it off by saying, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when suddenly my trail running friends started to say, I'm doing HYROX now. I'm like, what are you doing? And you talk to more and more ultra and trail runners who are usually doing your 70, 100K. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do HYROX. I'm like, what? And so on my radar, at least, give it now 2 or 3 years, we have been seeing HYROX coming up. I know you've been founded 7 years ago, 2017, more than 7 years ago. So how did you do it to get the trail runners to do HYROX?
That's a good question. It's not that we have a specific focus on trail runners or ultra long runners. I guess that it makes a lot of sense from the training aspect when you are in off season of trail running or long running to do something different. And apparently HYROX combines running with fitness, with functional fitness workouts. And I think that combination is really good. And I hear it now from every endurance sport, even like triathlon, not only running, even cycling, that they say this is a perfect addition to my just run training. It makes me stronger all around. And we have here also that people then are also getting better in longer distance running or marathon running or triathlon because you intend to just run and do nothing else and put the volume in the kilometers every day, but and you lose a little bit focus on the other elements in the body that you that helps you to maintain your your running abilities. I guess this is probably the simple explanation, or maybe it's fun to do something different when you have done, I don't know how many long distance runnings. So I think there are various aspects coming together, but predominantly for sure, it's our angle to fitness from the running side, or from the running angle and not from the strength angle. So we're not lifting very heavy weights. So I think you would never get any ultra runner to do a CrossFit event. But this is, I think, probably that was the idea from the beginning, to create something in the sweet spot, which is in the middle of classic endurance and fitness, and combine it and put it together in a different format. And yeah, probably that seems to appeal and seems to work.
You said, I think you found a sweet spot between attracting the CrossFit crowd, the ultra running crowd, the indoor fitness crowd, the Spartan heavy lifting crowd. I think that's something you combined. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, you said it before that I'm in this business for a long time. Unfortunately, 30 years. I was hoping for a shorter period, but I was involved in basically everything that was existing in the classic endurance world. As you said, Ironman or cycling or running. So I created a lot of these events and products. But I have to say, my background is more athletic, and I was always a gym guy, so and I'm way too heavy for long distance running. I was always too muscular to be really, really do this without suffering really, really hard. And then, but when you're in the business, you always look around. What is missing? Where can I create something that is not existing? And then I started to look more into the fitness gym membership community, which is bottom line the biggest organized form of sport in the world, with over 200, I think meanwhile 220, 230 million people are gym member. There are more people doing fitness. Everything is fitness. So when I say fitness, I mean gym fitness. So all the gyms that are around with all the traditional equipment you are using. And then, so this is pretty popular as a reference. Like golf has 60 million people playing golf and organized, right? In clubs, and tennis is a little bit more. I think it's 80 million. So that's 2 times or 2.5 times of tennis players in the world. And then you realize there are no events for these people. So you only train. They do marathons or they do triathlons, but that's not basically what you train in the gym. Why do you go to the gym and work with sleds and mat balls and dumbbells? It helps you also to be a good marathon runner, but if you want to run a marathon, you should not go to the gym, because running 30 kilometers on a treadmill can be quite boring, right? So most of these people do functional fitness, and simply there was no event existing. So I like to take that example of golf. Imagine there would have been only golf driving ranges, but no 18-hole golf courses. It's fun, but would you do this for the rest of your life, to hit the ball on a driving range? And that was the situation in fitness. It was only about burning calories and aesthetics. There was no athletic element, no competition form, no benchmarking involved. And that struck me that how can something so successful without the most important element that drives every other sport in the world? And that's competition and battling with some other people. And so what we created is the 18-hole golf course for fitness. It's that simple and not, but that's what we actually did. And it's a good example, because golf course can be played from the Olympic champions we saw yesterday, but also from absolute average people. Or running a marathon is the same idea, right? You have people running 2 hours, and most of the people run 5 hours. But they do the same thing somehow on the same day, at least the same challenge. And that was the idea, yeah. And then we spent time to put it together. And I thought this is the thing that can be the biggest gap in the world of sport. It is not filled up yet. And then I spent more time to think about how can you create a format that works logistically, which is quite complex. Because we are the most complex mass participation sport in the world by far. The most other complex event is triathlon with 3 distances or 3 sports you combine. We have 8 workouts and 8 times of running, so it's dramatically more complex with regards to the logistics and the rundown. Yeah, and voila, here we are.
Well, it's cool to hear that, and you're probably perfectly positioned. So I'm 57, Christian. So I remember the early days of Ironman and Ultra, and when there really wasn't much. And we're probably roughly about the same age. But you said you put the pieces together, that there's 220 million in the gym, but it probably was all of your experience that you could put that together. Because until you said right now that gym is like at the driving range, it never struck me until you literally said it. It was only your experience of what you've done. Does that make sense? Otherwise,
absolutely,
you wouldn't have figured it out.
I have a very special experience because I was involved in all these products, so I know a little bit. And HYROX is a product I took what I thought was the best pieces of all the different elements, from marathon, from triathlon events, from cycling events, from obstacle course racing. So I tried to take the best elements of it and put it together into a new format in a new area where no events were existing at all. And that, if you make this right, this is a very powerful combination.
How was so I'd love to hear a bit about your experience building up, and we'll dig into HYROX. When you started 30 years ago, as we know, the levels, the amount of money in it was so much lower, the participation was lower. If I can ask a direct question, how did you make a living back then, given the size of the sport and where it was?
Well, first of all, I got into this very accidentally. That was never my plan. It's a very strange, weird story, but I was working in advertising, and then I met a guy from a Hamburger Elektrizitätswerke. That was a Hamburg energy plant or energy provider, which was a monopoly at that time. They said, yeah, but we have a monopoly, so we don't really need to do classic advertising because everyone knows us, everyone has to use us. I mean, apparently we have an image problem. It was nuclear energy back in the day. So everyone was thinking, oh, they are bad, right? They are threatening our lives with the way how they're producing the energy. So they said, we have to do something positive. And then they came back and said, we did a research, and that was cycling is the best thing for us because it's a means of transportation which is clean and doesn't need any energy, and everyone can do it, blah, blah, blah. So they asked the agency, can you come up with a concept for a cycling event? And of course, an advertising agency says, what a stupid idea. You have to create a commercial. So they turned it down. And then because I was always I have a sporting history, so I just wrote a concept out by myself, which I called Marathon on Wheels. So simply the idea was very simple. I tried, why is no one doing the same? Because marathon running, city marathons became quite popular already back in the day. That was 95.
Okay.
They were already big events. And I said, why is no one doing this on bikes? Everyone can ride a bike basically like running. So I wrote this concept and then gave it privately to the chief marketing officer of this company. And then a week later or 2 weeks later, he called me and said, we love it, we want to do it. And then he said, can you organize it? And I said, I'm not sure. I was 26, 27, so I had no experience, did never run a company, I did never run any event. But I said, okay, this sounds like a great challenge. However, I did it. And now we have to understand, I don't know if you can remember, but cycling was a niche sport somehow. But there was Tour de France. Tour de France was already a big, very traditional sport event. And then we did the first event in 96. Horrible lesson to learn because so apparently we were totally unexperienced, and then we were running into this event, and it was a Pro-Am concept. So we called it Cyclassics. It's still existing. It was one of the most successful cycling concepts. But then a year later, so we survived the first edition somehow. The sponsor could see the potential, so they helped us to survive financially. But then Jan Ullrich won the Tour de France in 1997, which put cycling onto the map in Germany, and overnight it became one of the most popular sports in the country. And we sometimes in life we need luck, so we just started this very new concept. I think in year one we had 2,500 riders, and then after Jan Ullrich's win, we had 8,000 people doing it. And then a year later, I think 15,000 and then 25,000. So it became a good business model. And then I got involved into a lot of cycling in Germany because there was very old traditional organizers, and we were very young and with a different approach. And then I could grow also on professional cycling. So we did the Tour of Germany and a couple of other professional races, and there was suddenly, actually back in the day, big money involved. It was aired live on German television, and they paid really decent money for the TV rights, etc. So it was actually a pretty good time. today it's almost impossible to get money from television for these kind of sports if you are not the Tour de France. However, so it worked out financially. We could grow the company into other areas like marathon running and triathlon, etc. So because it was cycling had this professional arm that was really a television sport, and so there was money involved. That was the difference to niche endurance events. But as an example, we created the Transalp mountain bike race, which was interesting. Which were in pairs on mountain bikes, you actually cross the Alps in 7 days. It's basically kind of a mass participation event, but all this stuff worked. People paid quite a lot of money for it to do it for 1 week. So somehow it worked out better and better and better, and then the whole area became a bigger business model, right? And today the big marathon events of the world or whatever are
talking numbers. Could you share or give us an idea, whatever you can share publicly? What are the numbers of HYROX, and also which one are you the most proud of?
The most proud number I am is that we're expecting over 500,000 participants in this season. That is already started. We are growing every year by 100%. So last season we had 250 roughly, 230,000, and we are doubling in numbers, that's the number I'm the most proud of, because it shows us that the people really love the product and they're coming back, and more people coming. So that's a testament of, because that's why we do it. We want to give something back to people, which is a new challenge, and they like that. Second is the community we are creating, which is of course apparently also growing significantly, but it becomes a real own community like in every other sport. So you have the tennis community, you have the golf community, and you have the ultra or the running community. And now there's a HYROX community, or what we call fitness racing. And that's pretty cool as well, that it's not just the training or something, which you sometimes do. For many people, is now really a very important part of their life. Because and the funny thing is with fitness, it has a strong community aspect, because it works so well to train in a big group, to do group training with 20 people, 25 people in the same room in the gym. So it has a much stronger community aspect, or it's easier than in running or triathlon, etc. Where when the strength differences are too strong or too big, so if you are so much a faster runner, it's very difficult to run with 20 other people that are significantly slower. But in fitness, apparently, you have the different stations, and you have your own intensity and more reps, etc. And so you can do it together, even on very different fitness levels. That's pretty cool. And so the gym becomes the new clubhouse in our sport, which is very interesting as well from a business standpoint, which we try to explain to the gym operators. Change your mindset. You can be the new golf clubhouse. We have created the 18-hole golf course, but you are the clubhouse. That means it's such a different as a business model from just a service provider, and people come because you're cheap, or I don't know, you have more equipment or whatsoever. But now they come because you create a community in your gym, and then they go to a HYROX event with 50 people, and they come with their own colors, and they represent the gym at the event.
What a great bit of business. So, as you know, this podcast thinks about business. You've got some really gems of knowledge here, because you're using gyms as the clubhouse, but you didn't have to pay to build them. You created
Correct. They are all existing, 100,000 of them. And very beautiful ones, right? Massive ones, amazing ones. But no one considers them as a clubhouse. So there's no loyalty, there's no club aspect to it. Because once you are in a club, if you are in a football club and you play for a team, it doesn't matter on what level, this is your club, right? If you move away like 2 kilometers further, you don't change your club. because of that. Because there's another football club closer to where you live. You don't do that because it's your team, right? You compete with this team, you train with that team. And I think that's what we are creating now in gyms. And suddenly the sustainability of membership, etc., is changing. And slowly the gyms start to realize how powerful this is and how it can help their business.
Are they approaching? So maybe Christian, I've just run my business for 8 years, didn't make it. I know how hard it is running a business. Everybody, like, to me, I saw HYROX like Marcus did in the last year, really blowing up, and your numbers. I'm sure the first few years, I'm not going to say no one noticed, but what was those? Because I imagine today gyms are calling you, courting you, many podcasts. What was those first few years like before? Because every entrepreneur knows, overnight success. Yeah, just 5 years of hard work for this overnight success.
Yeah, of course. No, it was a lot of grinding. I mean, I have to say, because of my history, I knew if I do something again, I only do it all in and professional and right. So in 2017, we did a test event that was not the start of HYROX, really. It was also a different name, but we worked on the concept really intensively for a year, and then we did the event in Hamburg, but we rented the convention center, and we invested a lot of money to basically put the event down. And it's funny, we tested, and we more or less invited 600 people to do it. Maybe we sold 100 tickets, 500 were invited. That was not the point to make money. It was a point to test the thing, does it really work, and what's the feedback from the people. But we spent a lot of money in organizing this event. It looked really professional. It was really big. It was not like a test in a gym. We did this before to figure out the concept, but then the feedback was so extremely positive from everyone who did it. So we said, okay, this will work. And then we started right away with 9 events in Germany. But of course, our first event had 450 participants in Leipzig, and then we went on. I think, and then we were super crazy happy with. Then it was growing from event to event, and then we had like 1,500 in Hamburg. Of course, Hamburg was our home market, but that was a crazy success for us. And then we immediately went to the US, and I have to say. So for us, it was clear we have to invest minimum 5 years. We have to invest money. That was always the game plan, because we said we didn't want a way to grow it organically, very slowly, make Germany successful first, and then we might go to the next market. We went immediately to the US, which is the most difficult market in the world to crack. And I mean, okay, and then the worst thing happened in the world that can happen to an indoor mass participation event. So the pandemic came basically before we could even complete the second season, right? So we had to stop in March 2020. That was not according to the plan. So it stopped us totally for 2 years, but that's another Cinderella story. Because I said very early on, I think the only way that they'll ever let us do an event again is if we find testing systems where we can test everyone before they enter the hall. That's a good thing about this indoor event we do, because it's a controlled environment. So I said we started to research COVID testing machines, etc., where you can test 5,000 people in a very short time. So you come, you do the test, you're negative, you go inside. Then you create basically the most secured and safe bubble, and you can basically create. We found that system. We presented it to the city of Hamburg, and they said, "Yeah, it's a great idea, but we can't give you a green light because it would create the wrong pictures. We don't allow people to gather with more than 5 people or 10, and then we allow an event with 2,000 people, even though it would be very safe." And I said, "But on the way to the event, they can get infected, blah 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 blah." However, the funny thing is, so they knew we did this, and we had nothing to do, right? So we started to sell these systems to companies. Companies that manufacturing things, so where you can't do home office because people have to be at the machines. which was a big problem at the time, because when one person was tested positive, they had to shut down the factory, and that cost millions. And it was a big hit for the infrastructure. So we went to these companies that we can test every of your employees every morning before they come to work. And suddenly that became a business model, because the companies realized, oh, this costs nothing compared to when I have to shut down the factory for. And then Germany decided to give a free test to everyone. Like I think every country in the world did that. But from overnight, they decided on Monday everyone can get a free test. What they didn't think of was how do we do that? I mean, you needed so many test centers to do it, and then they called us, "Can you open test centers on Monday?" on behalf of the city of Hamburg. And I think in the peak time we were running 100 test centers in Hamburg. So we got extremely busy during COVID with not organizing HYROX, but we made money, and we could use that money to keep the brand alive. So it was a very, very lucky situation, because otherwise it's not the best time to find new investors if you're an indoor mass participation event and you have the pandemic on, and no one had any idea when this will ever stop. So yeah, we survived because of that, and then we continued right after with launching the UK and the Dutch market, so new markets outside of the US and Germany. And I have to say, and then UK took off in unbelievable speed, and I can't still tell you why it went off that massive. It was probably amazing. It was good timing, because they had a harsh lockdown in the UK for, I can't remember how long, but for like 8 months, everything was shut down. But then they also did open everything very consequentially. They said, okay, from now on, we have to live with it. Now it's over. Everything is open again. But everything was very short timing, but we were already planning our events. We are in a winter event, and they did open everything after summer, I think. And then for the traditional events, it was too late to come up with concepts. And so we did organize our first event in London that had 600 people doing it. And then in Manchester in January, we immediately had 2,400. And then the next London event in April, which was basically 9 months after opening, that event was sold out with 4,500 people.
Wow.
on the one day. So I don't know, it exploded very quickly. And once you hit this critical mass, it creates such an amazing environment. It's so different than other classical endurance events. The experience is so different that then everyone's like, wow, this is amazing, and we have to do it again, and we have to come with 3 friends to the next event. And it went up and up and up and up ever since in the UK. So that's amazing. And but on the back of the UK, I think they pulled up all the other markets, because people are looking at and say, what's going on in the UK? Because then the next event had 8,000 people doing it, and every event is selling out. Suddenly these events are selling out 3 months before the event. So people in Europe looked at it and said, what's going on? What is this? Oh, let's give it a try. They're now coming to our city. Yeah, and then you create the snowball effect. But I mean, you asked earlier, when we called the first gyms, I mean, this was heavy grinding, man. Everyone was like, who are you? What is this? Why should I do this in my gym, and I do marketing for you guys, etc., etc. So in the beginning, this was free. We gave it away for free. We had a PFT tour, so we went from gym to gym and did little events in the gyms, and we paid for all of that. And that was the starting point when we went into new markets. This is what we did in every new market. We had the gym tour, and we went to hundreds of gyms and organized little HYROX physical fitness tests. That was all part of the marketing plan. And now it's different. Now we have hit a critical mass. Now the whole gym industry talks about HYROX, and everyone is looking for an angle. How do I get involved? And now it's the other way around. Now they're all calling us, which is great. But we still believe we are not apparently not a competition to the gym operators at all. I think we are an amazing added value for the gym operators. I think we're one of the best innovations that could happen to them, because the impact is not comparable to a new machine or something, or another training methodology. They're all like trendy. They work for a while and then people try something new. It's not a game changer, but HYROX, just to create the 18-hole golf course for fitness, is suddenly people have a different purpose why they go to the gym and train, and that so the usage is changing, and they take more personal training. They want training plans because they want to get better. And as you know, it is in every other sport, right? They try to be fitter or to beat their time from last time, and they go to the start line. And we call it creating athletes. Before they were just training, now they are fitness racing athletes. And then you think different. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter. We've seen this in running, in marathon running as an example. People that run 5 hours buy the $360 running shoes, which probably will not improve their time. But they want the best equipment and they care a lot about this. That's a funny thing you create when suddenly there's a competition and they get involved.
Yeah. You mentioned a funny word earlier, investor. So I want to kind of double down on that one a bit, because I mean, you've been part of Ironman, and I'm going to now preempt Ned here, who usually gives a bit of a rant about how Ironman changed as soon as investors got involved. The culture of Ironman changed. It was PE owned, different ownerships over time now. And so what's your plan with investors, and or how can you preserve the rawness of HYROX if you take on investor money, or if you changing HYROX in the future?
Well, so we have one investor, which is Infront Sports and Media, which is a Swiss-based global sports marketing company, but they, in the traditional media and marketing rights selling business, basically, in very popular television sports, mainly football. But I know these guys for a long time, and we were looking for an investor very early on that, where it was clear it's not private equity, it's not venture capital. So no one is looking for an exit strategy, and that's a fundamental difference to Infront, to Ironman. Sorry, when Ironman got acquired for the first time, really got acquired, that was Providence, which is a classical private equity company, and it's all about building something, make it bigger, grow it, drive the numbers, and sell it, and find an exit in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And we minimum need to make 15% on top, because that's what we promise our investors. That's different here. They are a very long-term traditional sports marketing agency, and they will be around. No one wins when they are selling it, because the investors are not looking for very quick turnarounds. They're looking for long-term contributions. And we still own half of the company. So it's a very different scenario. And me and my co-founder, Moritz Fürste, we are totally running 100% of the daily business and the operations, and we take all the decisions. Of course, you coordinate them with our investor, but nothing with regards to how to grow, how to invest further. And it's not about maximizing. And I have to say, we have never made any profit since this year. So it's the first time but that's not a bad thing. We need to make profits at some point. Otherwise, this product will not be around for a long time. So that's clear. But it's, like I said, it's not about maximizing profits or whatsoever. It's about we have one overarching main goal, that is to try to get better every year and to provide the best value for money participants can find in the world of sport. That's what we try to achieve. Of course, this is individual taste somehow, but everything we do with what you get, the whole look and feel, the premium look and feel, that you feel individually as an almost like a pro athlete, all these elements. That's what we try to achieve and give them remarkable moments. I know everyone else is trying to do the same, but we try to do it. We try to do it even better, and because we are so different because of the indoor situation. If you I don't know if you come to one of the events.
Not yet.
Yes, as a guest, yeah.
So it's different, and but there's a lot we can do better, and even more premium and more effects, more elements. But it's all about the athlete. It's not about VIP areas and that kind of stuff, which I never really liked in golf, for instance. Which I think you have the feeling it's only about VIP areas.
I would say it's interesting. So, as Marcus correctly said, I was an Ironman guy, just amateur, whatever. Had the same rant as everyone else did when Providence, put themselves in. Understand it's private equity. Listening to you, and you can tell me if this is a fair comparison or not. You always got the feeling that Felix at Challenge was about the athlete, right? You got the I haven't done Challenge Roth, but everybody who has. Hearing you say it's about the athlete. If you told me, oh, it's about the athlete, but I have, private equity and here's my margin, here's my return, it might be a bit like, oh, okay, right, that doesn't sound right. But what Challenge builds, from everything I hear, is about the athlete. And I have heard people who've been to HYROX and they rave about it. Like, I haven't been myself, so I can't say, but I hear people rave. And the fact that you have a company that you own half of, you have this experience, and you have an investor who's here for the long run, and you give a shit about the athlete in that way, I think that to me, just listening to you.
Yeah, it's about. So first of all, I have to say I know the Ironman people also very well. They're really good guys, and they also try to do the best product. But it's the nature of private equity.
Of course,
it's not. It's just a different business approach, and I don't want to evaluate that if it's good or bad. It has also upsides because they provide a lot of money and they give you a lot of flexibility to invest, etc. Now, in business, you have to take very important strategic decisions, and we have to take this now. And I have to say, I've probably never been in such a position. So we have now this tremendous demand and this tremendous success. So how do you continue to grow to not lose your focus on delivering every event on the highest level you can do it? And because you can say, we just double the amount of events, but we are not doing this. We want to create mega fitness events. We want to create to take the example of running, we want to create the London and New York City marathons for fitness. So rather than putting on 30 events in the UK, and we probably have the demand in the moment to go to every little town and go into very small halls and make very little versions of it, etc. I think we 100% we will not do it. We will focus on the biggest cities with the biggest venues and try to give people an event scale and the quality and the size that they are blown away, that they think they're walking into the Olympic Games. Oh, I qualified for the Olympic Games. That's what I want to create. This feeling that you think, oh, I'm a professional. I feel like a professional athlete. This is unbelievable, and because like the whole setup and everything is, and it's easier for us than doing it in a triathlon because the triathlon is 40 kilometers of cycling. It's so much space, right? I'm watching the Olympics, of course, every day and I love it, which is, of course, it was always and will be always the by far best and biggest sport event in the world. But if you look at the branding and the stadiums but what they do for triathlon and cycling events, but outside of the Olympic Games, it's impossible to do that. No one could ever pay for that. It's because money doesn't matter, right? There's all the money in the world, and every city, you get every permission, everything what you want to do. Yesterday was a triathlon mixed relay on the on the bridge of, is it Pont Neuf? Or, I mean, they would never give you the bridge in Paris, never ever for any other event, because they would never close it for a week for an event. But we are indoors, so I can go to the same venues they're using at the Paris Olympics, to the most remarkable venues, and we can put an event on, and people can compete, and I can make it as nice as the Olympics almost, from the branding aspects. And then I think so. That's our job. We want to do. So we are very much focused. That doesn't mean we don't put on a lot of events, because there are so many countries and so many attractive cities in the world. So we are producing 77 events this season, which is a lot. But I created a list of the 150 most attractive cities in the world, and this is what we want to achieve. That we have, not in all of them, because I have to say, I think 42 on this list are American cities, US cities. I think that's too much for the US. We will never put on that many events, but this is very important, because when you look at obstacle course racing, when this got very popular, especially in the US, they were like flooding the market with events. Everyone, Spartan, Tough Mudder, Darrier Wash, or what the name was, a Warrior Dash. I think they had a big, they still have, I think Spartan is still putting on 60, I don't know how many they have, but it was like 50, 60, 70 events. So basically at every weekend, at every corner, there was a obstacle course race. And then I'm not sure this is long-term the right strategy, because you make them too general, too normal. You don't create, I mean, the London Marathon organizers are not putting on 3 marathons a year just because they could. Because you want to you have to create the scarcity and this FOMO also, like, oh, when is it coming? And oh, how do I get a ticket? And oh, I got a spot. But we are growing, of course, in days and size of the venues and footprint. So these events will get significantly bigger. But the individual experience will will get even better, because that's our focus, right? But you have to take these decisions. I learned one lesson, which I think is a big mistake in many business models. It's always only about growth, forever. I mean, we're still growing because we're adding, there are so many new markets where we had zero event yet, right? So apparently we're growing because we are adding so many new markets. But there will be a point when we hit also the plateau, that's clear. And I'm totally fine with that. I don't think this is a bad thing, because, but that's the problem, especially with some of investors that always push you to why are you not going more? Go on, make a short version of the event, go into small halls, do another 100 small events, just to add more business, just to grow. And I think that is a risky play, and you can be, but because if you have a very solid, very healthy business, why do you always need to make it bigger? So these are interesting decisions, but I can't judge for other brands. They have their reasons, marathon running or Ironman is a good example. I think Ironman is a great product, but there is definitely a natural barrier of amount of people that are ready to do it, and this is totally okay. This is totally fine, because it's an amazing business model, and these people are enormously dedicated to do it and to spend a lot of money on their hobby. And but I think you will never double the amount of events for Ironman. I don't think it works, because it's too extreme. That's the beauty of it, and it's not a downside. That's simply the factor that is stopping you to go at some point. But okay, they are going. But they took the decision to go into other areas of endurance sport. You mentioned it, ultra trail running. I think they're quite successful in that, and I can say, because that was when I was my little time with Ironman, that was exactly the start of that approach. So how can we grow the business without putting more Ironman events on? And then that was a start to say, okay, we want to become one of the leading organizers of endurance events. And we go into cycling, we go into trail running, mountain biking, classical running, etc. And they put a remarkable portfolio together, which many people don't know how much they organize, I have to say.
Exactly. I think I was just on this note, you might know that there was a lot of pushback from the trail running community that Ironman got a minority stake in UTMB. And I would love to hear what would be your response to those critics out there who are worried about the community being destroyed, about Ironman, UTMB changing the sport, because you talk about community a lot, you talk about athletes a lot. So what would be your response be as a business person, as an athlete yourself, to those individuals?
Well, first of all, I'm not really that familiar with this scene. I'm not an UTMB runner. I've never been to an event. I just saw some videos. Looks pretty cool and fun. I can't say now. I would give. I mean, they are very experienced organizers and produce amazing quality for sure. They know how to do that. They can create synergies on the back office end that can help UTMB to grow further. I don't think they will. They will not rename it into Ironman UTMB or whatever. So these are fully two dramatic different products. They will be fully different departments inside of the company. So I would wait how they're executing it. I don't think there will be a change in branding and community at all. And I don't think they are sending now the UTMB community every day emails about how do you want to do an Ironman race or do you do a half Ironman. I don't think they try to move the UTMB community over to triathlon. It's a fully different business. Let's say like car manufacturers that have different brands. And there are some of them that have whatever, and they are basically all cars. But so I would wait. I would give them a chance and see how they're doing it. I mean, consolidation can be a big upside because look at HYROX. The other one part of the success of HYROX is that it's organized out of the hands of one organization. Everything we do is controlled by us. So we have quality standards. We try, even we have a licensee, we will never allow that they deliver a lousy event. We would actually jump in and pay for it if they don't do it. Because we can afford it because then the other countries are subsidizing a new country, right? That keeps it much more together, and so the whole product grows, the rules, the race conditions. What is the next standard we want to deliver at every event? If you have a growing scene, but you have 20 different individual organizers, they all have their own goals. They basically think about their own event. That is good and bad. It's good but that's why the difference in quality are so different, because it's just depending on how good the local organizer is and how good they are in generating revenues, etc., to reinvest this into the event. But they can't take that money to help to reinvest into other UTMB events, which are organized by other groups and other people. So it can be an upside to grow the sport and make it bigger.
So you mentioned brand. How did you come up with such different question? How did you come up with the name HYROX? It's such a good name. Where did it come from? Where did it come from?
Well, that's a creative process and lots of beers. No, it's not. So we knew we need to find a name that we wanted, or that is we can protect as a word mark globally. That rules out everything with fitness or anything that is even close to fitness. No chance. So we had to find something brand new, and then you start putting names on the board. So we had hybrid. We said, our finishers are rock stars. And then we start writing it with an X, so ROX stars. And then you start to put pieces of these words together. So we took hybrid, high from hybrid, and rocks from rock stars. And then suddenly we had HYROX. And we thought, this sounds cool. It's just has no meaning, but it's positive. It looks cool. It's a new word. So when you read it, you know exactly, okay, they talk about HYROX, nothing else. So
honestly, Christian, that is great. It is great to hear. Like, I'm a sales and marketing guy. I believe so deeply how important those words are. You know, whether it's Uber or Airbnb or Nike or Apple or whatever. But I saw HYROX. It's so good. But I wouldn't have put together Hybrid and Rockstar. But listening to it, when you wrote it out, HYROX, did you and your co-founder, were you suddenly like, oh, this is it?
Yeah, we had like 20 versions of other stuff. And then everyone does, and we make this process. It's a creative process with 10 people in the room, and then you start brainstorming. You come up with these different combinations, these different names. Then we had to fact check that with our legal team. So there's this software you can put a name in, and it shows you, and is there a similarity to other brands? And if you have to be, if there's anything over 80%, it's alarm signs, because that puts you in a risky situation. So you had to find something where every brand that is registered in the world is not, the similarity is not closer than 80%. So 75 is okay, 70%. But that rules out other names. And then we had HYROX, and that went through the tests, and and then we had the feeling. Yeah, we had all a good feeling about it. It got the most votes, and we took it. So it was clear. I'm very much a brand guy too. So you need a brand. A really, really good brands are short, but special and specific. I mean, Apple is. I would say in the beginning, I would have said is not a good brand for a computer company, because apparently in the beginning, no one had any idea, are you talking about apples or are you talking about the computer? Now it's different, because every brand needs to fill up and needs to grow, right? And of course, today when people talk about Apple, everyone thinks more about the iPhone than the real Apple, which is amazing. Right. But okay, we talk about the biggest company.
Exactly.
But Uber, I mean, Facebook, Instagram, it's Twitter. I'm not so sure about this new name, but HYROX fits pretty well into that group of names.
It's such a good name. Can I ask one other thing? I see people posting their HYROX photos. I must tell you, Christian, I think that is a masterstroke of is that your photographers? Do you give them the photo? Because they're beautifully taken. I mean, and I was teasing a friend of mine. I'm like, dude, you either got ripped or they make that photo look good. I mean, they are fat. You cannot get better marketing than not you, but a competitor sharing, and particularly the one where they have the sandbag and they're kneeling down and they're standing. Did you guys figure that out early? Because personally, I think that's a masterstroke.
Yeah, it's not so rocket science, because this photo service is existing at every endurance event. The difference is, first of all, when you run a marathon, you get your photos as well. But apparently, you look always exactly the same on every running photo.
Correct.
There's no difference. You always look the same, and your muscle stimulus or whatever. It's always this running position.
Right.
Then the light situation is not. You can't do anything really with the light. It's daylight. It's not perfect because of the indoor situation. Plus, the fitness workouts, the functional fitness workouts, they show you in situations where all your muscles are coming out when you do the pull or the push. And the movements are so different that all the pictures are so different and then because of the light, we can create the perfect light for the pictures because it's indoors. And that is the reason why everyone looks better on these pictures than you look normally on regular pictures. And of course, they are right on the pitch, so they are really in front of you. And it's very successful. And it's the highest pickup rate than any other endurance sport, percentage-wise. because everyone thinks, oh, I'm looking so great. I'm looking actually pretty lean. I see my muscles, whatever. And of course, in fitness, the guys have the intention to take their shirts off, etc., which they don't do in other sports normally. So, and then they are proud that they trained hard and now they look that good, so they post about it. Now that works extremely well, yeah. But it's an upside because of the indoor situation and the sport itself, yeah.
My last question would be, it's kind of two questions in one. Let's see, but you're a businessman. You have seen many things. Where would you take HYROX if you want to make it next level? And I'm not talking about necessarily locations and growth, but just in general, like philosophy speaking, and or if you have sold HYROX tomorrow, what would you do as a next thing?
If I sell HYROX, I will not do another thing, and I will not create another brand sport. Now, I will then, I don't know, I might be an investor or something like that. I don't know, but I will not do this. Now the vision is very clear. We want to organize, let's say, the 120 to 130, maybe 150 best HYROX fitness events in the world, in the most attractive cities. We don't want it. We will never change the format. We will never do a half version of it, or other stuff. We want to be the gold standard of fitness racing, and there will be other organizers doing other versions. They see the success now, so people try to do something similar, but which is fine. They do a short version, a longer version, whatever, less running, more running, other workouts. But we want to be the gold standard. We want to be the marathon. Yeah, what the marathon is for running. This is the biggest day of running. There are half marathons, there are ultra marathons, there's everything, but the marathon still is the gold standard product. It hits the sweet spot of and has this myth and this history, and so we will be totally focused on this. I'm very sure we will do everything we can so this becomes a sport. There will be a professional element of the sport, which is already growing fast, but that will be for sure somehow on television, and there will be pros that are racing and winning it, and they become stars for the community, like every other professional global sport. It will be a global movement, which means more or less in every country of the world. And we want to establish fitness racing or HYROX as one of the leading training methodologies in gyms around the world. So, and I think that will be the case because it's a most well-rounded, healthy training, regardless of the event, because that was the purpose. When I created the format, that's why it has a certain length and a certain amount of workouts. I wanted to create something where the training, because in the end, you spend so much more time training for something the event is one day, right? Maybe 4 days a year or 5 days a year. All the other days you train for it. So I wanted to create it where the train is fun, is healthy, very well-rounded, and more or less the best people can do. That doesn't mean people should now stop running ultramarathons or whatever. That's not what I mean, but it's for many people, I think it hits an amazing sweet spot. But it's for every athlete, it's a good training. When you play golf or play tennis, it's not wrong or maybe even good if you do a HYROX training twice a week. So we want to establish this around the world in gyms, and our job is to help the gyms do this on a proper, most professional way, so that the training makes really sense from the training aspects, from the sports science aspects. So we try to help them with that. And then I'm happy, and then maybe we find a way to bring it into the Olympics. that would be then the icing on the cake. Because we tick every box, actually. And we already are somehow in discussions with IOC. Very, very long term. And I don't know if this ever will be realistic, but the sport, when you look at it, fitness, I would say, gym fitness is the only thing that's missing at the games in the moment. That is extremely popular and is not part of the games. I mean, there's nothing similar. Everything else they put in now: surfing, skateboarding,
So
breakdancing.
isn't the motto of the Olympics faster, higher, stronger? I think that suits you.
No, we hit every box. Everyone can do it. It's for women and female and male in exactly the same level, doable. Everyone is involved. We are already in 30 countries of the world, so all the stuff that is important for the Olympics. It's a global sport. People do it everywhere. We have youth programs now, which we are kicking off with HYROX Youngstars. It is a very visible, watchable product because our lead races are less than 1 hour from start to finish. It's exactly programmable. All this stuff is important for Olympic Games. If it's too long and too complicated, that's why Ironman was never an option for as a triathlon version for the games. You can't watch it on television. It's too long. Or CrossFit is too complicated and with so many days and all these different events. But I don't know. So I don't know. It will be the icing on the cake, but it's not. That will not be, like I said, we have a very clear vision that it's fully independent from the games. It's just a little bit of a dream. But it's nice to dream as well, right?
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I think I've got so many more questions, but we have also a time limit here, unfortunately. I'm super excited as a German as well to see coming out of Germany, by the way. So I'm a bit proud for innovation happening in Germany, which doesn't happen too often anymore. But
that's very true. That's very true.
Absolutely fantastic what you're doing. So thank you. I'm sure we're going to revisit this conversation again very soon. I'm curious to see where it's going. As you know, we're in Asia. You are growing in Asia, so we will have maybe another episode coming up about Asia in particular, because there's another deep dive we should do about just China in itself. I think it's exciting, and we'd love to hear how the China launch is going soon. So we should get you back on the show and help our Asian audience with that. But thank you so much for joining. Good luck with everything. Of course, no doubts you will be successful. What we can see so far, it's been amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. And Ned, if you're in Singapore on the 31st and 1st of September, come out and I'll show you around at the event.
I appreciate it so much. That would be, and it's, as I said, like so often you hear people are suddenly HYROX. This is 30 years of work for you. I love to hear the backstory because as entrepreneurs, we know a bit. I'm an ultra runner. This is all the miles, all the meetings, all the stuff you've ever done comes to this point that you are the right person in the right place at the right time to be able to do it. And it's great to see. It's great. So congrats on what you've done, man.
Thank you very much.
The last part of the show, sorry, Christian, you say again?
No, all good. I just said.
I was saying the last part of the show is actually the Ned's wisdom. So he's doing a little kind of Ned's drop. It's kind of a poetry slam of ultra running. So please bear with us for another 2 or 3 minutes where Ned is going to share his poetry from his world of ultra running. So Ned, on that note, I'm handing it over to you for the closing of this episode.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. My little poem. This one's just a little thing that happened to me this weekend. I am training for backyard, as you guys know. So I try to do 50, 60K each Saturday, Sunday morning, just slow. And this one, a little thing happened to me. And so I'm going to tell you a poem about it. This one's called Sprite. Sprite. I love Sprite, cold Sprite, especially when it's hot, which it is in Singapore. I was at 45K of a 60K run, 34 degrees. My bottle of Sprite was warm, but I was keeping it for when I really needed it. Then I saw him walking. I saw him earlier charging on a big session. You could tell he was a real athlete. But now, when I saw him again, he was walking, hunched, broken, slow. I caught up to him. I slowed. I looked round to him, his eyes hollowed. I asked. He said, "I'm done, dude." But he was an athlete. He had the fire in him. I know he's just training, but he didn't like walking. No one does. Walking sucks when you want to run. So in the moment, I thought, I'd give him my Sprite. I asked, "Do you need it?" He said, "Really? Eyes wide? I can have it? You don't need it?" I said I didn't need it. I did. But he needed it more. So I gave. He smiled. Big thank you. I ran on. And although I was still suffering with 15K to go, my suffering was less, much less. The glow of giving made my endorphins rush. I didn't need the Sprite. What I needed was a brain boost. I got one. Giving is good. Let's all do it. In a run, in life, give unexpectedly. The glow you get is a win. I won, he won, on the run. No losers. Let's do this. See you out there. Ned.
Thank you, Ned.
Well done.
Just FYI, we're not paid by Sprite or Coke anyone. This is just a...
This was so funny. Like, you could tell he was a real Ironman athlete, dude. He had all the gear. He looked ripped, but he was just cooked. And my Sprite was hot. I'd been carrying it for like an hour and I gave it to him. Oh my God, it was hilarious. He was like, really? Really? He just needed some sugar. And I was like, yeah, dude, I hope he got some Sprite and carried on. But anyway, that's the
Right.
Awesome.
All right, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thanks, Ned. See you soon.